It's another Listen-able bonus.
Bonus-ode.
Hello everyone, welcome to another bonus-ode, and this one is, I recently shared a story on Instagram. Actually, as we go to record this, it's currently on our Listen-able Instagram, but this is the sort of content that really fascinates me and I love sharing on our Instagram, which is Cheyenne Clearbrook, who we now follow, how do deaf parents know when their babies are crying? So she was sharing sort of these, interesting parenting questions.
What was the answer?
Well, you have to watch her content on our Instagram to find out.
I obviously have already, but I was just for the listener.
Of course.
Okay, smart.
We're
It's got a hook.
Listen-able_podcast to find out.
I get it. Yeah.
But now, back in our own shores, because she's international, Queen, now that's her name, not, your old mate, Queen Bation found out she was pregnant. She's deaf. And excitement quickly turned into concern as she wondered how to navigate the health system because she was born deaf and her husband, Mark, has been hard of hearing since he was 4. Now, they live in Toowoomba in Queensland. I think that's important to note just for kind of the regional aspect of things.
Regional Australia,
Yeah.
and especially for our international listeners, which there are lots.
Yep.
It's country, rural areas in Australia are very far apart.
Yep.
So in other countries, like you're in the country town, you're still close to a city. Not so much in Australia. It's quite a big geographical place.
But this story also relies on Auslan, which is Australian language, interpreters, which there would be a lack of. Yeah, a lack of in country towns versus Brisbane, the city, their nearest CBD. So Queen needed an Auslan interpreter for medical appointments and often organised herself on when interpreters were available. But when she went into hospital to prepare for the induction and went into labour, her chosen interpreter was available. And this interpreter, named Alison Wilmshurst, has been a medical to many medical appointments in her job, but this was her first ever birth. And she
Cool.
said, so this was the interpreter saying, there's a real education for me because Queen and I had known each other beforehand. I'd been interpreting for her for a good year or two. We had a good rapport. She said letting deaf people choose their interpreter was important, but once again, allowing, I've been in the delivery room, right? I saw my daughter Indy get born. As the mother giving birth, if it's a cesarean, which wasn't our case, but you've got a sheet here, right? So like there's a sheet covering so you can't see the doctor and what's happening down there. If you're giving natural birth, your legs are up in stirrups, the doctor's down there, and so they're just communicating to you with voice. So for Queen to be able to have the option of having an Auslan interpreter behind the doctor, letting her know your baby's crowning, it's now time to push, take a deep breath, we're holding for a second.
Wonder what they would have done without that. Just
that's a lost in translation. There is no other alternative for that.
holding up like iPhone signs.
Who knows? Luckily, Queen didn't have to find out. But isn't that interesting to think?
Wow.
Because your doctor doesn't look up and wouldn't be able to lip read in that moment.
They would have a nurse transcribing onto a phone. They'd have to, yeah?
You'd hope so, but then that nurse has an important job as well. Not that that nurse isn't an important job in interpreting, but there is a few people involved in a really important process of giving birth. So
How cool is disability? And
very cool.
This podcast, to be honest, I learn things. I would never thought of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so important.
So they did say that there is a need for more interpreters in Australia. I mean, I think also we spoke about in Victoria, who's our premier?
Dan Andrews.
Dan Andrews did announce that TAFE courses in Victoria are now doing free Auslan courses, but there's only 300 interpreters in Australia.
Yeah,
Did you know that?
not many.
Not many, not enough. So for people who are deaf or hard of hearing parents, there's still a long way to go, but hopefully that gives you some idea if you're looking to become a parent in the future that there are options out there.
And also, you might not be able to listen to this podcast, but you can definitely read it. All our videos are captioned, so check them out on our YouTube, on our socials.
Links
Trying
below.
to support absolutely everybody to enjoy the dulcet tones of Angus and my gravelly voice.
See you next week. Shit.
Oh.
I've been left here
Yes!
I got left for a high five then.
That was great.
What am I waving at you?
That's making the podcast.